So we're going to go ahead and open up our church windows. And nothing has really changed on this opening page. We just have our version number. One thing I want to point out before we get started is the toolbar for the GoToAssist, the GoToWebinar function that allows us to connect to this webinar. You have over on that panel, that toolbar from GoToAssist, you have a questions area where you're able to type in any questions that you may have regarding the new updates that we're talking about today. If you have questions about your own personal Church Windows data, do give us a call about those questions. We won't have time to go into any user-specific questions in the webinar today. All right, you can also press the little orange or red arrow button to close up that toolbar so you have more visible screen area if you'd like. And let's go ahead and begin. So most of the changes that are taking place with the version 20 update are going to be in membership. If you've been with us for a while, you'll remember back several years ago, we used to use a contributions and financial module instead of donations and accounting, and membership is now getting a similar update. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and we'll take a look. Now right away you'll notice it definitely looks different than it used to. I'm going to maximize it to full screen here. And what you'll see here is up across the top, just like in accounting and donations, we now have a button bar up here with different buttons that change as you select each of these menu choices. We also have redone our little quick access buttons here in the middle. We've broken up reports, labels, and emails right here to make it as quick and easy as possible to do each of those separate reports. Now, the biggest change is going to be the people file. You'll see down here we just have one big button that says people instead of two separate buttons that say members and visitors. So if we click to open that up, we're going to see our all new family and visitor or family and individual records. Now this is going to contain all of the same information that it used to. It's just gotten quite a big facelift and it allows a lot more flexibility. We're really excited about these changes, even though it can seem a little bit overwhelming at how new everything looks. It's all still here, it's just slightly differently laid out. So across the top here, we have our previous and next buttons like we used to, a find button, and then next we have categories. Now this is the biggest difference. The categories allow you to still have separate member and visitor records, but now you can also add any other categories that you might want. For example, we've added a potential category and used a P to indicate if people are considered potentials. And that category up here is where you can select, let's say we only want to see our visitor category people, so we can uncheck our others and close. And now down here at the bottom it says showing and it just says visitors. Highlight that so you can see visitors down here, and we selected that from this categories drop down up here. So moving down, we have a person lookup where you can, instead of using the whole find feature, you can quickly click the list and scroll through all of your people, or just type a name. If you start typing, the names in the list change to match the letters you've entered so far. I'm going to go back to checking all of those. And then next we have separate add and delete buttons for the family and individual. This makes it a lot easier to know what kind of individual or family you're going to be adding to the database. So that's a great little feature as well. And moving down, we have separated the information for both the family and individual records into tabs that kind of help organize the information and keep it a little bit clearer for you. We are now able to link people from different households into a second house. That's going to happen down here in the list of family members. We have this extra little column with a house, and as you can see when I hover over it, it says this indicates alternate household assignments. And so that will have a little indicator in this space if someone is assigned to multiple households. Now this is great, for example, if you have parents who have divorced but share custody of the children can now appear in both houses. Although one will be their primary and the other will be an additional household, they will be able to appear on reports with both families. So that's a great add-on that people have been asking for quite some time that we were able to integrate. We also have the ability to store a photo for just the family versus how we used to have the photos stored on the primary individual of the family. It's now stored for the family as a whole, and you can add individual photos as well. Another change that has been made is the tabs over on the individual side. We have, instead of the buttons across the top, we have tabs for our groups, classes, skills, interests, and addresses, as well as a comments and photos tab. On addresses, we're able to add up to 3 alternate addresses per person, as well as 3 alternate addresses per family. So we now have many more options as far as addresses go. These addresses can also be recurring. For example, if a college student has an address at school for part of the year and that's going to repeat every year, you can have a recurring address. Or if someone goes on a study abroad for a year and they don't have a recurring address, they have an address for only a certain period, you can use years as well to limit that address to just one specific time frame. And on this family tab, you'll see the current address is the one that's displaying here. And if you click the drop down, you would see the additional addresses there as well. Next, if we come up here, we can look through our button bar. I wanted to go over the big changes with the family and individual record first. So across the top, if we start with people, we have people, which brings us to this people record where we currently are. Then we have a find button and a visits button. Visits hasn't changed much, so I'm not going to go in there, but I am going to pull up our find. And now when we click find, instead of just giving us a blank family and individual screen, it brings up this screen, which most of you will probably recognize from reports. We have now applied the reports screen, the whole dialog, to our find, which is great because it allows you a lot more flexibility with your finds. You can enter multiple different criteria, and that even includes giving and pledging or accounts criteria. And then you can click find to see different groups of the people in your database. And just like you used to be able to, if you leave it all blank, don't change any of the settings, and just click find, you'll bring up the find grid, which also looks different. But if you look past the new colors and toolbar layout is pretty much exactly the way it used to be. You've got your columns of information, which can be dragged to rearrange, or even dragged to group so that we have our categories combined together into separate lists. So again, we have a lot more flexibility in this find than we used to. If we close that and come back to our button bar, let's click on Attendance. And up there we have an attendance button for attendance entry, which is also available here in our quick access buttons. If I give a little highlight there, we have attendance entry here and attendance entry here. Both of those are exactly the same. Then we also have browse attendance, transfer attendance, and our Kid Check integration. All of these functions are going to work just like they used to. We just have a new way of accessing them. Then we move on to groups and skills. And again, these are going to function the same way, we just have a different layout. So this first button, Groups, will allow us to set up our groups and classes. And we can still use this hierarchical structure of different departments and categories if we choose to, divisions, departments, and categories. Or you can just add all of your classes to a main breakdown without separating them into different levels. If we go to Assign Groups, this is where we will be able to add people to our different groups and classes. And again, functionality is pretty much the same. It just looks new and updated, much cleaner and more current. And the Advanced Groups is again going to function the same way. We have our From group, and we would choose our To group. So we would take our first and second graders to third and fourth grade and go through the rest of that process. Now we're not going to do that right now, but this is what that interface looks like. Then we have Skills, which allows us to maintain our list of skills and interests, which you can also rename. A lot of churches prefer to call these time and talents. You're able to do that in the setup if you'd like. Either way, you've got that skills button to set up your list of skills. You can add, you can edit simply by clicking, or you can delete by using the minus. Then we have our Assign Skills, which is the same assign window as for Assign Groups. When it comes up here in a sec, you'll see we actually just have two tabs that we can alternate between to do assignment for either groups or skills. There we are. So you can see we can assign people from this window to either skills and interests or groups and classes. And then moving along, we have our Reports and Export button bar. First, we have Reports and Labels, self-explanatory, I believe. These have not changed. Again, just the layout of where you find the reports. We've got separate buttons for birthday, anniversary, and both of those are the same as they used to be. We have groups where you can print separate groups, classes, or skills interests, and you can do any of the three: reports, export, labels, or email for those different classes of reports, groups and classes, or skills and interests. Attendance, we have the same four options we've always had: summary by person or event, attendance worksheet for having the teachers actually taking attendance and checking people off, and the attendance report. Visits is going to be the same as it used to be, those reports. And then other is where you can find that blank data entry form for your new people to fill out all of their information for you to get into the database. And then lastly, we have our special functions button, and then help in Windows. Windows is going to allow you to organize the way that the windows appear on the screen here in membership, and help is going to take you out to our help files. Under special functions, you have settings, and these settings are going to be pretty much the same choices as before. This is also where we can relabel those fields like I was talking about if we wanted to do time and talents instead. We could do that right here and just click save, and that would put that into effect. You've also got a tab to set anniversary date, so you use the marriage date field by default, but if you have another one you can change it. You have some attendance options on this tab, and here you can manage your list of cities, states, zip codes, and countries. Then you have a button to advance school grades, and this is the one for on the individual records of the students in the school grade field. Then you have advanced groups, which is what we showed earlier. That button is available under groups and skills or here under special functions. Then you have your NCOA options for our bulk mailings, verification of addresses, to create the file to be verified, and to import the verified file when it comes back to you. Lastly, under special functions, we have customize fields, and this is for the people file, which can be managed by category separately, just like it used to be. Each category can have its own list of fields, which can be rearranged using these up and down arrows, and edited by clicking in the fields. You can uncheck a field if you don't want to use it, and it disappears from this part of the list, but pops down to the very bottom and is printed in italics so that you know that these fields are not being used, in addition to that checkbox being empty. Some of the fields you're not able to delete, and that's why the minuses are grayed out. Those fields are necessary for the functionality of the program, so they can't be deleted, but they can be hidden using that check or uncheck for visible. And you can also alter the type of field for some of the fields. For example, you could change a field to character instead of list, or we also have a yes/no option now, which is great. So that is the way that we customize our fields now. Very similar to the way it was before, but it's just reached by a single button instead of digging down into some different menu areas. You also have your add button down here if you hadn't noticed that. I didn't quite mention that one. So that is our customized fields, and we will be adding a setting to make the lists the same for all of the categories if that would be something you want to do, but you can maintain separate lists for each category. I'm not going to save those changes, and that about covers it, and we are just at our 20-minute mark. So if anyone has any more questions, go ahead and get those typed into the question panel. Let's see here. It is possible to create a new field in the customized fields. That was the first one that came in. It's right here down at the bottom. I'll circle that button with my highlighter. And all you do is click that add button, and it'll give you the choices to Enter a name, enter a type, and enter a size. Let's see. The special character that can be used in the directory is something that you can currently do, but we've just made it easier to add that character by adding a separate field for it. Let's see, what other questions do we have in here? Monica's asking about the reports, if they'll transfer. Yes, they will transfer. The change that had to be made before is not going to happen in this update. You will be able to bring those reports forward. We do not have a solid release date yet. We're hoping by the end of September, but it may be beginning of October. The developers are working as fast as they can, and they're making very good progress, so we'll let everyone know as soon as we know a solid release date for that. Sarah, for KidCheck, you can go to our website and search the term KidCheck, and there will be a recorded webinar on our website that you can watch about what the KidCheck module is and how it integrates into Church Windows. And Keith is asking about attendance entry. Absolutely, you are able to filter attendance entry by those different categories, just like you used to be able to by choosing just members or visitors. I don't know that they've integrated that just yet. Being that this is sort of a beta version of our version 20, not all of the features have been implemented yet. So I do believe, Keith, that will be possible. It's just not available as an option just yet in the attendance entry. All right, if there are any other questions, go ahead and get them typed in. And otherwise, thank you for coming, and we hope it was helpful. And join us for another webinar when the topic you need comes up. Thanks, everybody.